Welcome back to another episode, all. Throughout this episode, I'm going to talk about a particular therapy called stem cell therapy being offered out as a fake treatment, preying upon parents of vulnerable children, making the false claim that this is a cure to autism. And I'll give some evidence of how these are just charlatans and it is full of quackery. So let's get started. First of all, what is stem cell therapy? I'll read it out in their own words. I quote, "Our bodies are made up of different types of cells like brain cells, blood cells, heart cells, skin cells, and stem cells. Stem cells can turn into many other types of cells. In stem cell therapy, stem cells are injected into a patient to repair or replace damaged cells as a way of treating various conditions. The stem cells might come from donors or the patient themselves. Stem cell therapy is used in the treatment of conditions like blood cancers, burns, and damaged corneas, but it's not recommended as a therapy for autism." End of quote. So, there's quite a lot to unpack there, where it talks about different kinds of cells. This relates to a process called mutagenesis, where it's about replicating and repairing genes. Your bodies actually do that naturally. Our bodies automatically repair our genes, such as when we go out in the sunlight, the ultraviolet radiation is actually damaging our genes, and then an automatic process called mutagenesis occurs to repair those genes that have just been damaged. But sometimes mutagenesis fails to repair those genes, and by failing to repair them, they can't work anymore, and that's what leads to things like sun cancer, by mutagenesis not being able to repair, which is why on some conditions, as it says, treating various conditions with damaged cells actually can cure it. So stem cell therapy is a valid treatment for some conditions, but it's not a valid treatment for autism. And I'll provide a bit more evidence on that later, but just through plain scrutiny, where it says it's used in the treatment of conditions like blood cancers, burns, and damaged corneas. Notice that all of those are actually caused, that the cause of these things is to do with damaging genes. But what they call the autism gene, first of all, there's no such thing as the autism gene, and the alleles are simply a variation of the gene. So the genes that the parents of autistic kids have are the same genes, but it's a variation of that gene. So these are not damaged genes to begin with. The genes which have been associated with autism are not damaged genes. So they're trying to repair something that is not even damaged. And the next section says, who is cell therapy for? I quote, "Stem cell therapy is for people with severe burns, blood and immune system conditions like leukemia and lymphoma, or damaged corneas. In Australia, these are the only conditions for which stem cell therapy has been proved to be safe and effective. Although some people claim that stem cell therapy can be used for a wide range of other conditions, including autism, cell therapy for autism isn't recommended." End of quote. Now, I would say this raises quite a few red flags. First of all, the fact it's not recommended. The fact it's not in the health services recommended set of things, that's a red flag already. That would put me on pause if I had an autistic child and were trying to treat my autistic child. It put me on pause, but it's not a recommendation already. Second red flag to me is it's not approved by the Food and Drug Administration. A third flag to me is that there's no scientific evidence to support it. They can never provide scientific evidence. The fourth red flag, it is advertised through testimonials. They can never provide us medical evidence, such as I've asked this place called Swiss Medica. They say, ask us any questions you want. I then ask them questions about, can you provide me medical evidence of your claims? And they never respond. They can never provide an answer. And that only supports the claim by other scientists that it's not a valid therapy for autism. It's just another money scam. Now, on to the next part. What is stem cell therapy used for? Supporters of stem cell therapy for autism say that it can reduce characteristics of autism. They say it can improve behaviour, anxiety, social skills, communication, speech, and ability to focus. There's no clear scientific evidence that stem cell therapy changes the characteristics of autism. End of quote. And that is certainly true. There is no clear scientific evidence behind it. And what I can say just through this alone is where there is scientific evidence in neurobiology, that evidence contradicts this claim. So we do have great contradictory evidence against stem cell therapy supporting and curing autism. For example, a part of the neurobiology is they've seen that in autistic children, during the early years of their age, something called the amygdala actually develops in a various way, which results in things like the child being fearless to the child being overwhelmingly anxious, where we see the mass levels of anxiety in some autistic kids, because the amygdala in everyday language is a threat detector. So where the kids are fearless, because their amygdala is underactivated, it doesn't detect danger as a threat. So a car might be coming down the road, but that will not be detected as danger by this child's amygdala. So they won't interpret that as danger, which is why they'll just run out in front of a car. But those who have theirs overactivated too high, they'll detect things which are not threats as threats. So they might find just stepping outside of your front door so threatening. And that's why some parents have autistic kids that won't even go outside of the front door, who think that the blue sky above them. Our parents told me that their child thinks the sky is going to fall on them. So even though the sky is no danger to us, the child interpreted it as danger. But that's due to the amygdala. It's not due to anything which stem cells talk about. Now, we'll carry on. Where does stem cell therapy come from? I quote, in 1968, Robert A. Good from the University of Minnesota did the first successful stem cell therapy. He used bone marrow stem cells to treat immunodeficiency disorder. Since then, researchers have been testing how stem cell therapy could be used to treat other conditions. End of quote. Notice that mentions immunodeficiency. Not all autistic people have immunodeficiency. Not all of us have an immune system that seems to be deactivated. So this is not specific to autism. And what does tend to be more likely in autistic people is we see a higher level of autoimmune problems, not immune deficiency. but a problem of autoimmune. We do see that in many autistic kids, and the nervous system and so on and the brain are directly connected with each other, and this brings them into a bit of reductionism, because if they're sticking with just the brain and just the nervous system, that casts out and ignores all the environmental factors that might be causing the behaviours and the genetic expression switching genes on and off. So they've gone very reductionist. They are. So now I'll continue a bit further. What is the idea behind stem cell therapy for autistic people? I quote, research has shown that in certain conditions like leukemia, stem cells can reduce inflammation and improve the way the immune system works. Supporters of stem cell therapy for autistic people claim that autism is associated with inflammation and problems with the immune system. They claim that injecting stem cells into an autistic person will reduce the characteristics of autism, but these claims aren't supported by scientific research. End of quote. As I already pointed out when I spoke about genes and so on, they are not associated with each other. And as I've mentioned in previous videos I've made, we don't even know what autism is. If we knew what autism is, we would not need to call it a spectrum condition. We would know the common denominator. All other disorders have a common denominator, something everyone diagnosed with the condition has in common. But there's no known common denominator among people seen as autistic, which is why there's no known why it's still a spectrum condition, or at least said to be that. So I'm going to go a bit further now. What does stem cell therapy for autistic people involve? There are currently no established practice guidelines for treating the characteristics of autism with stem cell therapy. This means the treatment can vary across clinics. Generally though, the treatment involves the following stages. First, pre-treatment checks. Second, collection. Third, injection. Fourth, follow-up. Pay attention to that one. Follow-up. And they tend to be the main stages. And now, if you remember that part, follow-up, why would they need follow-up appointments if it's a known cure? Why do we keep needing to go back for checkups? Why do we keep needing to doing it again? If it's a cure, as they are showing you. If it's a cure, you shouldn't have to go back again. You shouldn't have to go for checkups if it is actually a cure. So they already contradict their own claims there. There is currently no good quality evidence that stem cell therapy helps with the characteristics of autism. More high quality research is needed. There's also evidence that stem cell therapy can cause side effects like fever, tumour growth, abnormal bone growth, seizures, infection, allergic reaction, and immune system rejection. That's where I mentioned earlier about the immune system, where this can actually do the opposite as well. And this can also cause cancer. So like where it claims to cure cancer, it can also cause cancer. Because messing with someone's cells can cause what are called mutations. Remember the process of mutagenesis. Imperfectly replicated or imperfectly repaired genes producing mutations which result in cancer. And it's precisely the same here. The stem cells that they are injecting into children, they don't know if it's going to perfectly replicate. But we do know that we will not always get perfect replication. So for them to go making advertisements and not sharing any of these side effects with you, not sharing with you the scientific reasoning behind it, for this case there is no scientific reasoning behind this scam, and the cost considerations, I quote, "You can expect stem cell therapy to cost tens of thousands of dollars. The cost of this therapy varies depending on the types of stem cells used, the number of treatments, and the clinic." End of quote. So, something seems very wrong with this as well. Yeah, tens of thousands of dollars. Who can afford that? And what about the autistic people who can't afford it? Do you really think that cure to cancer or any other kind of disease, disorder, disability, do you really think who's entitled to it should depend on your wealth? Why shouldn't it depend on your health? So if you get cancer in the future, for example, what if you're someone real poor? Do you think you can afford to purchase a cure? So what are they doing? Claiming that our health should be dependent on our wealth. Is that justice? When people get different payments to one another. So how is that equality in the health system? And as I mentioned on the previous episode, the medical community does not approve of this. The Food and Drug Administration does not approve of this. Or the failure to share with you the side effects. More things of what an advertisement would do. But what is the purpose of advertisements? It's not to tell you the truth. It's to persuade you. They're trying to persuade you to purchase their treatment. They're not trying to tell you the truth. As another example, to show you how there's a lot of charlatans and so on, there's someone called Patrick Nemechek, and his parents slinging around his model called the Nemechek Protocol. Slinging his around. I'll be talking about that in a later episode. So just allow me to read a bit out about him. I quote, "By 2004, many of Dr. Nemechek's HIV patients were stable and leading normal lives, but strangely, they were starting to die of sudden cardiac events due to CAN, cardiac autonomic neuropathy." Dr. Nemechek set out to learn more about the lethal phenomena, and in 2006 purchased new technology called spectral analysis that allowed him to tune into the communication signal between the heart and the brain, quantifying the balance and turn of the two branches of the autonomic nervous system. Close quote. So they came to lead normal lives, and it resulted in them strangely and suddenly dying. So I would say that illustrates that an autistic child, say, coming off as normal, regardless of whatever you do to make them so-called normal, I would say that proves that a normal life is not a healthy life. Just because they've become so-called normal. And that's another fallacy by the fact of the matter, you can't even define a normal human. So altogether, I quote him again, "Autism is the consequence of excessive brain inflammation, in addition to toxicity from the overproduction propionic acid from intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Easily refuted. As I mentioned on the previous episode, those of us autistic, not all of us, experience small intestine bacterial overgrowth. So what caused my autism? I've never experienced gut problems. So how is this claim true? He goes claim that it's caused by SIBO. And then there's non-autistic people who experience SIBO, but they don't become autistic. So if SIBO is the cause of autism, why don't they become autistic? So you see, it takes just elementary questions like this to refute these charlatans. I'm going to go on to another one by him, which by now we should all know is false, by Andrew Wakefield. Something he just made up. I'll point out a few questions that prove that as well. I quote, "The threat of injury from the vaccine is real, as is the danger of not being vaccinated against measles, a potentially deadly infectious disease which we have no treatment for. It's important to realise that it is the unstable intestinal bacteria that triggers the cascade resulting in autism. Many developmental disorders, as well as cumulative brain injury, vaccination is only one of several events that can push an unhealthy but not yet autistic bacterial blend into a full propionic, acid-producing, inflammation, autism-inducing blend." Close quote. Oh, that is ridiculous. First of all, we know that individuals are autistic from within inside the womb. How do you provide a vaccination to a fetus? How do you put a needle inside of it when it is still in the womb? Second of all, autism has existed for hundreds of thousands of years. It traces that far back to before we were even humans. Did we have any of these vaccines hundreds of thousands of years ago? Did we know any of this hundreds of thousands of years ago? No. So what caused autism back then? So vaccines certainly are not the cause. Only approximately 1 to 2% of the world's population are autistic, but the vast majority of the world receive vaccines. So why is only 2% get affected if vaccines are the cause of autism? So look, someone else calling himself a doctor, a specialist, full of quackery again. A deadly infectious disease. Have you caught autism from anyone? An infection is something you catch. But do you catch autism from anyone? No, we don't. We are born with it. It's not something we catch. So the fact he doesn't even know what infectious means, what does that tell you about Patrick Nemechek? I'll be talking more about him on the episode when I talk about his model, because you see it is full of ableism. So look, all these people, there's someone called Dr. Oyila I keep seeing mentioned on YouTube, but guess what? All three, Dr. Oyila, Patrick Nemechek, stem cell therapy, do you realise that all three of them are offering the same cure, claiming, just putting it in different words to each other, but all three of them are saying the same thing. Andrew Wakefield said the same friggin' thing. So all of them out and about offering you cures, charging you. They're all charging you for the same thing. It is all the same. They all know that they can get money out of people because of this. And that's why they do it. They're charlatans, and they know how desperate so many parents are. And that's what they take advantage of. Now, those of you who are parents of autistic kids, I address you. Any of you who have tried this Dr. Oyler, Patrick Nemechek, the Nemechek protocol, stem cell therapy, you are plain abusive people. To think of doing this to your children. There is no scientific evidence behind it. There's numerous red flags. Why is it not recommended by the medical community? Why not? And you don't even research these questions, but you go straight into it. The medical system, the medical community warns you. Fake cures will charge you big amounts of money. So why are you going and ignoring the warnings that the medical community has given you? They have given you warnings. Why can't any parents I talk to about these cures ever answer scientific questions about these things? When I read out the reviews, why didn't anyone have anything positive about the therapy itself to say, but had lots of negative things? Why aren't these doctors qualified? Each time I ask them questions about disabilities, they cannot answer. Why do they mention so much science fiction? Why do they feel the need to deceive you? Why must they do that? For you to ignore all of these facts, for you to fail to research what you're doing to your child, injecting a 2-year-old, that can be absolutely traumatizing, especially stem cells. And as you cause this trauma inside your kids, do you think your child likes it? Do you think your child is not in any pain? So we can say clearly, you do not love your children. Those of you who do all this stuff offered by these charlatans and quackery, we know you don't love your children. We know you are just doing whatever you need to do to get the child you expected that has never existed. We know you do not love your children for who they are. Allow me to give a bit of an analogy of what you're all suggesting with your eugenics, of your thinking that the solution is to get rid of all autistic people. Let's see how that analogy works out. There are some disorders or diseases that are only in females, and there's some that are only in males, right? So, why don't we solve that problem by, let's get rid of all women, let's get rid of all girls, that way the disease will be gone. Has anyone ever suggested that? Let's get rid of all the men. Has anyone suggested that? But that's basically what you are suggesting. And things go even further. You obviously, as mentioned, have not done the research. There's only approximately 1% genetic diversity among the human species, among us as a species. And diversity is essential for human survival. And you want to eliminate that genetic diversity. If we need that diversity to survive, what do you think eliminating that diversity will do? It will lead us towards extinction. Mutations are required in order for evolution to occur. No change equals no evolution. No difference, no diversity equals no evolution. But our environment will continue to evolve as pollution continues, climate change and so on. As all of that continues, we will have to adapt to the environment. But by eliminating the diversity, you destroy our resilience, and by doing so, you're going to cause premature extinction, because we will not be able to adapt to the new environment. These alleles persist for a reason. Natural selection. The fact we still exist, I would say that proves nature knows what it's doing. But humans certainly do not, especially since you want to cause premature extinction. That tells me you do not know what you are doing. And this does make you abusive parents, as you are directly abusing your kids. As by causing these mutations that are not natural, but are caused by your interference, you interfering with development, you are the one who causes your child cancer. Then when your child dies of cancer, you are the one who actually caused your own child's death. You killed your own child by causing your child cancer, by failing to do the research, by being so selfish about getting what you want and not what is beneficial for your child. It's by being so self-centered on yourself and dreaming all the time, thinking about the normal way is the best way, when you can't even define normal. What's normal behaviour? What's a normal human? What's the normal personality? What's the normal height? What's the normal age? What's the normal this, the normal that? You can't define it. It is just a statistical fiction. So your whole thing, your whole phenomenon is science fiction. And you're choosing to use all of that on your kids. That is disgraceful. I would never do that if I had children. Even though I oppose applied behaviour analysis, if I had an autistic child and applied behaviour analysis and these therapies with no scientific evidence, if I were to choose one of the two, I would choose applied behaviour analysis, even though I do oppose it. I would not go injecting things into my child which have no scientific evidence behind them. I would not put my children in the hands of doctors who are uneducated, who only know how to inject, but don't actually understand what they are talking about, and not actually qualified in the field they claim they work for. I would not put my son or daughter in their hands. I'd want a qualified specialist, not an uneducated specialist. So if you're a parent, do the research. Pay attention to the red flags. Do not be so ignorant. Don't be so selfish and only try to make the child that you wanted. Be a caring parent and love your child for who he or she is. Everything that is involved trying to make autistic kids so-called normal has resulted in suicide. ABA, trying to make autistic kids indistinguishable from their peers, disallowing human autonomy. That resulted in suicide. The Feminine Boy Project, disallowing a feminine boy to be feminine, resulted in suicide. Gay conversion therapy resulted in suicide. So to go putting your kids towards these treatments that are going to make your kids suicidal is unacceptable. Is plain abusive, meaning you are an abusive parent. If you feel condemned by what I have just said, that is because you are guilty. You are not condemned by me. You are condemned by the truth. The truth has condemned you, not I. But the truth that there's no scientific evidence. The truth of all the infections it can cause. The truth that you have not done the research. You are condemned by the truth, not I. So I strongly advise all of you, make sure your priorities are in order. Don't go thinking that just because something can make a difference, that it is effective and works. You should not be abusing children just because they are disabled. You should not be trying to make them who you want them to be. And according to the bioethics code, you should require the patient's consent. Otherwise, this will lead us to genocide. Genocide is unjust, cannot be accepted. It reinforces cultural prejudice, reinforces discrimination, reinforces stigma. So really, those of you who are parents who go taking all this quackery from these charlatans, you are actually your child's worst enemy. Using your child as inspiration porn. Ugh. I'm so glad my dad doesn't use me as that. But my dad has not treated me as inspiration porn. I'm so glad my dad has not felt the need to change who I am, but has allowed me to be who I am, and has always loved me for who I am. I'm so glad my dad has not gone putting injections into me without my consent. So I strongly advise you all, stop listening to all these charlatans. As soon as the term cure for autism comes up, turn away. As soon as they go bringing money up and deceit, turn away. As soon as red flags come up, do your research. If you made it this far, thank you for listening, and please spread the awareness of all these fake cures and money scams. If you would like to hear more on the fake cures that are going around in later episodes, hit like, hit subscribe to my channel, and you will be informed when more content is uploaded. Thank you.